Would you love to see Egypt's pyramids but don't know where to start? Or maybe you are unsure about visiting solo and would like some tips. Today we are talking to Jackie Jacob, an American living in Cairo who is an expert in organizing trips to Egypt for female travelers. Don't miss it! Welcome to the Solo Female Traveler Show. In today's episode, we will explore Egypt with Jackie Jacob, an American who fell in love with the country and decided to set up an agency to help women plan their dream trip to the land of the pharaohs. Solo traveler Jackie co-founded Anton's Egypt Tours with her Egyptian partner Anton and loves to put together trips that are not only fun, historical and photogenic, but also have a spiritual element. What about a meditation session in the desert, or a sunset felucca party on the Nile, or maybe a few days at a spa resort in the Red Sea? Whether you are traveling for a week with your girlfriends or just want to organize a solo trip, we've got you covered in this episode with practical tips and advice for female travel through Egypt. Let's go to Egypt, shall we?
Today we're talking all things Egypt since it's a pretty hot destination to travel to. I want to share a little bit about myself as I am an avid solo female traveler. I'm involved in a lot of travel groups and I just really want to encourage people to be brave and be, brave enough to go out and travel and see the world because there's so many beautiful benefits from doing so. We're going to talk a little bit about Egypt 101, like where Egypt exists in the world, what all is here within this country, is it safe to travel here, best times of the year to come to Egypt, and then also like where are those hottest destinations that people are talking about, or maybe you see like these amazing photos on Instagram or on your Facebook feed. So we're going to be talking all of the best places to go to, and then how to get more information. I was born and raised in the US. I'm originally from outside of the Boston area, and really for the past decade or so, I've been working in the digital marketing world. So social media is a home for me, website development is a home for me, and I just really wanted to continue traveling the world. So I did a lot of travel on my own, actually traveling to even rural villages in Uganda with the women's empowerment work I was doing. And through that, I just was opened up to so many opportunities. My work in Uganda, I was really fortunate to be able to fly through Dubai. So Dubai was another area that I got to see the city skyline. I would get to go skydiving, and just really using travel as a way to overcome my own personal fears and grow as an individual. Even though I was traveling solo, one of the things I wanted to share is I was never alone. Egypt is located in North Africa. It's a part of Africa. Most people actually think it's technically a part of the Middle East, but it is an African country. And it's actually really diverse here. So there is a lot of people from the Muslim faith, but there's also a prominent Coptic Christian community. And like myself, there's also a lot of expats. For me, after coming to Egypt for 20 days, I went back to the States, left my formal job, and pretty much donated everything I own. I was like, I'm ready to move abroad and kind of live this digital nomad lifestyle. I was just so taken away. And being in Egypt, it's a great place to do other tours. So a lot of people will pair it with Israel or Jordan or other places in the Middle East, other destinations. And then talking about Cairo itself. So again, a lot of times people think, hey, Cairo and the pyramids, that's it. That's what I'm coming to see. But just to prepare you for your trip here, you want to think about how is Cairo as a city? Cairo has over 23 million people just in the city alone. So when you arrive, when you get here, it's loud. There's traffic. There's a lot of chaos going on. It doesn't mean it has to be scary. It's just something to keep in the back of your mind. It's like you're kind of coming to a New York City on steroids. It has more people in its population than London, New York, LA. So it's a lot to take in and also a lot to see. It's also the largest city in all of Africa and all of the Middle East, just to give you some more perspective if you've traveled around there. And then in Egypt overall, there's over 100 million people. So it's a pretty crowded place, but it also gives you perspective on that, hey, there are other cities outside of Cairo that you may want to check out, that you may want to have on your bucket list or your travel list that weren't on there before. And we'll talk about some of those today. One of the most popular questions I see in travel groups, and one of the questions that I get asked personally with our travel agency, Anton's Egypt Tours, is that, hey, is it safe to come to Egypt? So I wanted to share with you my personal testimony of how I've traveled the world, because I'm a female myself. I'm a single female living in Egypt. And yes, it has been safe. But just to give it some comparison, like 99% of our travelers are actually female. Some of them are traveling alone or in small groups. Maybe they've met someone from a travel group and wanted to come together. We've also had families come. So I like to think of it as like a little bit of a larger New York City, in the sense that if you go to some place like New York, there's all different things that are happening, right? Like, yes, there can be pickpocketing. Yes, there can be car accidents or things that, could happen to you. But overall, as long as you're aware, it can be a great place to travel to. A few tips I always recommend is like have a SIM card that's working in your phone so you have internet and data ready to go. People are super friendly here when you arrive. So for me, like I didn't do that. I didn't have the address of the hostel I was staying at like written out in Arabic. I had everything in English. So I actually had to borrow someone's phone, and someone let me like make a phone call that I needed. But just to be aware, I would have a SIM card, be ready to like use Google Translate. Prepare yourself that, hey, most people will be speaking Arabic. Some do speak English, but if you're not used to hearing that language, it can sound a little harsh. It's actually a really beautiful language, but just be prepared to be able to communicate with the people, maybe research a few common sayings. And then also I would take it's usually 10 to 15 US dollars. I would take the taxi from the airport or schedule with your like local hotel or local hostel, and just like do that. I, on the other hand, took a city bus, went on the wrong route, had no data. I finally ended up downtown close to my location, but I'll keep this story short. But anyways, I went on the adventure my first 2 hours in Cairo and really extended my drive. So I would just take the taxi. Also, people tend to ask like, hey, when I'm arriving, maybe I'm coming from another destination like Turkey or Greece, what should I wear when I get there? And so I always say to dress a little conservatively, just out of respect for the culture. So maybe like have a scarf that you can throw over, like a dress that you're wearing if it's hot in the summer, or a jacket you can throw over. I tend to keep like dresses and skirts like longer below the knee. So just kind of that as a rule of thumb. And then just kind of know where you're going, have a rough guideline, and then read your reviews. Like read reviews of where you're going to be staying, talk to people in this group and other groups online, and yeah, just kind of have a game plan. This is also a very common question that we were talking about prior to this call is, should I hire a guide? So, myself being like an avid solo traveler, I've totally winged it before, right? I've shown up somewhere, known where I'm going to stay, and then I'm like, I'm just going to explore and go on an adventure myself. And that can be fun. But, Egypt, where it is such a large city, and there's, it takes some time to start to navigate everything around. What I would recommend is like, hey, if you're like, I don't want to deal with hagglers or negotiators at the markets, or I want someone to like handle getting a camel ride for me, then I would hire a guide. The other thing to be aware of is there's so much amazing history around the Egyptology here in this country, but there's not a lot of signage, or at least yet. So when you go to the pyramids, there's not really a ton of signs or like an audio tour you can take that tells you all about the pyramids. So it's good to do a little bit of research, whether it's with our company or somewhere else, just learning about like, hey, how can I maximize my time in this destination? So if you're interested in more of the history, or you're interested in just like really like not dealing with the headache of anything, then I would recommend hiring a guide, whether it's for a package tour or just like for a half day or a day. This is one of our recent travelers. She was so sweet. So, some of the top tips I would say we recommend is like getting a guide, getting a private driver. Like you can have a car waiting for you. You don't have to worry about like waiting for Uber or getting an Uber after you leave the pyramids. Like planning ahead if you're into like having travel photos or you have a travel blog, like really like what do you want to be wearing in your shot, and also what can you bring with you that's comfortable. So if you do decide to like go inside the pyramid, you have a comfortable pair of shoes, maybe not stilettos because there's a lot of stairs or a lot of you're like hunched over climbing. Maybe it's a scarf or a hat to like protect yourself from the sun. Just like thinking ahead based on like also the season. People also ask like, when is the best time to come? In the summer, it is hot, but you're gonna have much less people. In the wintertime, it's a little bit cooler, but it's typically a more popular time to come to Egypt. April is really, really great this time. Hopefully this time next year, people can come join us. And then also if you're wanting those great travel shots, I recommend like arriving really early in the morning. Typically they open around 8 a.m. So you could even arrive 7:30, getting in line or being there with your guide or if you have a photographer. And then I always do recommend buying the extra tickets to go inside the pyramid. And also I recommend Khufu's solar boat. It's a small museum you can go into. You're there, it's an experience, so I recommend doing that. And then there's so many other cool places around the pyramid. So there's different rooftops you can sit on and grab a bite to eat and like take in the views, smoke shisha, maybe have a drink. You can go four-wheeling on ATVs at like sunrise or sunset. You could do the sound and light show. I know you had shared that you really enjoyed that out of your day at the pyramid. So there's so much to do. So those would be our top tips for that. But I think now we'll start to get into some of the other destinations. Hearing like other attractions in Cairo is also a great way to go. So if you have a full day in Cairo, I do recommend going to the Egyptian Museum. Fingers crossed, the new museum is opening in 2021. It's supposed to be absolutely breathtaking and really innovative. So we're really excited about that project. But yeah, there's so much to learn just about the actual history while you're downtown Cairo and in the Giza area. And then if we keep going through here, there's a couple other destinations that people love to go to. Old Cairo, you have the old mosque. You can see, if you're interested in more of like the Holy Family history, there's some history there. You can go to Kana Khalili, which is really the most amazing souk, most amazing market to buy some pieces to bring home. Also some amazing day trips and overnight trips. So a lot of people are like, hey, like I have a limited amount of time. I have an extra day or an extra 2 days. I'm primarily staying in Cairo or by the pyramids. Where can I go? And so a few of the destinations on our list, one is Saqqara Memphis Dashur. This is like a go-to add-on for us. I believe this is on the next slide. And there you're going to actually see like the oldest pyramid in the world. This is not it. This is the Bent Pyramid. But yeah, you're actually going to see like the oldest structure and really be able to get in all of that history that's here. You can also go to the Black and White Desert and do like an overnight adventure. I've camped out there personally. It's incredible. We enjoyed music, great food, the views.
How far is this? Because I have never seen this picture or this place before.
It's about 5 hours. It's only 5 hours. So you do take two forms of transportation. You're like in your regular car when you're going out, and then you get into the four-wheel drive vehicles. There's Crystal Mountain out there. We do yoga. There's so many amazing things to do, but it's definitely should be on your bucket list for sure.
So it's the best way to do it is to go in the afternoon, then spend the night there, camp there in the desert?
Exactly. So it's really a 2-day experience. So you're driving out, spending the night, and then heading back the next day. And a lot of people do this as an add-on to their trip or an add-on to a package. And I definitely think you don't want to miss it. Another day trip we had in here is going to Sokna. So Sokna is also a short drive from Cairo, a few hours. And like some people who are like, hey, I don't have time to go all the way out to Hurghada or out to Dahab, you can take a yacht trip and go out on the Red Sea and still to get some snorkeling. Yeah, and then we had Alexandria in here as well. A lot of people love to go to Alexandria maybe for the day or 2 days, really for the history, for the food. It used to be, Egypt's former capital, and so it's also a great city to take in the views.
Isn't this the Library of Alexandria is one of the wonders of the world, right?
Yeah, you can go.
It's not there anymore, I guess, right?
So there's so much to do there, and so those would be like our top overnights, day trip, like day trips really. And then we can start to get into when people like think of Egypt, I think in addition to the pyramids, they also are like, hey, maybe I want to go to Luxor, maybe I want to go to Aswan. And they also ask like, how do I get around? I think a lot of people arrive here and maybe they have Cairo figured out, but they're like, oh, I didn't know, like Aswan, if I take a sleeper train, like I'm going to be traveling all night long. Like this is like a 12-hour sleeper train. Or if I fly, like I actually need to plan this out. So some of that can be done here, but it does help. And I think just to have a plan ahead of time. So you can go by plane, you can go by private car, or a lot of people will also do a Nile River cruise. So we typically, recommend the 5-star Nile cruises that sail around all through Aswan and Luxor. You can even do Kamambo and Edfu temples is stops in the way. You can do a private dahabeya if you're coming here with a group. So there's a lot of options, but we just like to to share like, hey, like maybe think through like, how do I like to travel? Do I want this to be more of like an adventure, like backpacking experience? You can do that. We can make recommendations for that. Or do you want to go more in style and just like be able to relax on the Nile? So there's a little bit for everyone based on how you like to navigate. So a lot of trips when we come to Egypt start with Aswan, and Aswan is just like, if you look at this photo, it is serenity, it's peace, it's calm, I feel like I'm traveling back in time because it feels prehistoric to me, just all of the beautiful animals and wildlife along the Nile River. You can take a felucca, go on a boat ride. And then if we go into the next photos, like these would be our top destinations of actual places to go and see. So we have Philae Temple, which is dedicated to the goddess Isis. I don't know if you can see, I'm wearing a necklace representing her. And she's really, all about love and healing and magic. And so a lot of female travelers like love Philae Temple and just looking at like this beautiful place on an island. So it's a great place to visit if you have a day or two in Aswan. The next place we have is the Nubian village. And this is one of our former female travelers. And you can actually go inside and go outside these real Nubian homes. And the Nubians are like one of the oldest villages and tribes. And they're just the most welcoming, amazing people. And we can just kind of flip through these photos quickly based on time. But yeah, you can see like local artisans, craftsmen, women making jewelry, taste the local coffee, smoke shisha, like at these like kind of remote places along the Nile, and just like really take in the local flavor of this different part of Egyptian culture and life. So I would say it's like one of the most cultural places you can visit. Then from Aswan, you can actually this would be another day trip, and go to Abu Simbel. And in Abu Simbel, there's two main temples built by Ramses II, and he built one for himself and then one for his beloved Queen Nefertari. And so out of all his wives, she was the favorite. And I think on most people's lists, Abu Simbel by far is one of the most sought after attractions. I mean, just like how it's carved, how it's built is really breathtaking when you go and see it. And
it's almost as iconic as the pyramids, right?
Yeah, it's worth the day trip. It really is. This one, Luxor would probably be that next destination, right? So this is a photo taken at Hilton Luxor, but you can go 5-star, you can stay on the Nile on your cruise, or you can, get a hostel locally or an Airbnb. There's so many different ways to travel. And as we flip through these photos, you can see a few of Luxor's most unique destinations and activities. So going on a felucca party is something that people ask us about. Like sometimes they'll have live music or food, taste local food on the felucca. And it's a felucca, for those who don't know at home, it's just a boat you can sail on the Nile. But it's so fun, like whether you're traveling solo or as a group, and also a great place to take some photos and just like take in the total lifestyle and the environment there. And then next we have a few other excursions you can do. So one is doing a hot air balloon ride. And when I've traveled to Luxor, they were actually closed I think the one time they were closed is when I was there. So I will be going back if any of you want to go to Luxor. But you can actually get up really, really early in the morning and do this at sunrise. And so like actually see like the Western Bank and see everything over the Nile River. It's just an amazing experience. And this is one of our travelers in that thumbnail. And so yeah, it's one of those go-to things if you're more of the adventure travel lifestyle. There's also Karnak and Luxor temples. Luxor temple's in the heart of Luxor. Karnak is a little bit further out, but both are really must-sees if you're there. You can also do a sound and light show at Luxor temple at night if you happen to maybe miss that. The pyramids, this is a place you can do it. I believe there's also one at Philae temple, so you can kind of like hit those as needed throughout your tour duration. But yeah, both of these are like just amazing places to learn more about the history, the Egyptology, see the hieroglyphics, and just, take in all that Egypt is in its glory. And then we can kind of just flip through these next one. There's also Valley of the Kings. This is a big destination on our spiritual tours. And just there's all these different tombs that they've opened up that you can actually go inside. So it's a great place for photos. I think our next photo, we have a photo of Anton, my business partner himself. He's a native here in Egypt, and one of our primary tour guides, obviously co-owner, and yeah, just amazing photographer. So we definitely love doing photo shoots in Luxor and taking places to kind of all of these hidden areas. Next, we have Queen Hatshepsut Temple. This would by far be my personal favorite. I believe the next slide, we have a group of girls who traveled with us, and really Queen Hatshepsut is about this temple that was dedicated to the first female ruler in the world, and it was the most peaceful reign in all of Egypt. So when you think like pro-female travel, female empowerment, like this is the most meaningful place I think to take in and definitely visit. Should definitely be on your list if you're traveling to Luxor for a day or two. Switch the vibe a little bit. So in Hurghada, which is one of our also most sought after destinations, people typically go like Aswan, Luxor, then Hurghada, which is a city on the Red Sea. There's also nightlife. So Cairo has some nightlife as well, but Hurghada would really be our recommendation for the place to go if you want to go dancing, have a drink at the end of your tour. So it's a great place for celebration or just to like kind of chill out at the end of your experience. If you want to like do open water or anything like that. So it's just really an incredible, amazing experience. And then you can also, do like overnight yacht trips. You can even go to do some snorkeling, any of that. So yeah, I think.
And Egypt, the Red Sea is always warm, right? All year round.
It is pretty warm. Yeah. I feel like warm means different things to different people, but relatively warm. And you do float more because of the salt content. So, especially for snorkeling, it's comfortable. You don't have to worry about staying afloat the whole time. They have amazing masks and equipment. So I highly recommend it. But yeah, it is definitely a warmer climate, warmer destination. You can do ATV rides. This is something you can do really across Egypt, but Hurghada tends to be like a hot destination for that. If you want to like kind of mix up your experiences. So that's a lot of fun. We also just have like a lot of people want a relaxation day. So this is from the Marriott in Hurghada. You're like, hey, at the end, I just want to relax and go to the spa and enjoy great food before I travel or go to like the next destination on my trip. This is the place to do it.
I mean, in the end, after a few days in the desert, you kind of want to go into the sea, right? Like you want to get away from the dust, right?
Yeah. And when I came to Egypt, I didn't even imagine the Red Sea. Like I just hadn't even thought about that. And so I think when I saw the Red Sea for the first time, I literally had tears in my eyes. I was like, this is so beautiful. I'm so ready to relax. So it's really an amazing, like eclectic group of places and destinations all within one country.
Fly direct to the Red Sea, right? Like Hurghada
has
an international airport.
You can fly direct. And a lot of people like flying from Hurghada and then going on to Jordan. That's a really popular track. So you can see Cairo and Giza up at the top, and then you're actually like making your way down south to Aswan, then kind of like working your way back up to Luxor, and then you have the Red Sea over to the right. Also, you can go to the Red Sea on the Sinai Peninsula as well to Dahab. So you have really either option while you're in country.
Tell me, you mentioned spiritual tours, which I think is something that for you is personally important, right? Like what sort of tours, what would that include that's beyond the regular tours?
Yeah, so Egypt just is such a place, not only like with the history and the Egyptology, but also just like the energy here is really, really powerful. And so I think every place we go to, we just are able to go a little bit deeper. On some of our spiritual tours, you can actually get private access. This is a little bit of a higher end experience, but yeah, you can actually have private access to the pyramids, to go at sunrise or go early, like have the actual like domain to yourself. Be able to really have like your own unique spiritual experiences through meditation, yoga, really getting in touch with the greater history and the nature here. And so we have really almost like these deeper experiences that you can go through in each destination that we've mentioned. So it's like you get all of this plus more. And I think a lot of people end up leaving feel like, wow, like I not only went here, but I also had a transformational experience. Like I was able to heal different parts of my past. I, feel more free. And so like for me, this is just like an amazing thing to be able to share with people on this planet. So Egypt is also a great destination for that, to be able to do any healing work after any sort of trauma, or if you're just like into this. Like a lot of people are really into meditation, into yoga.
And tell me a little bit about the food, Egyptian food. I'm sure
Oh,
like
ooh,
people are not very aware about what's common to eat in Egypt, right? I
I
remember when I was
know.
there, lots of full madames, lots of Arabic bread,
Oh my
some
gosh.
of
I wish
what
I
people
could.
associate more with Lebanese food, right?
I know. I think you'll have to like come over. We need to do a whole session on the food. I gained several pounds. I'm now doing yoga every day, but so when I first moved here, I like wanted to try everything, and this is something we definitely want to introduce people to when they come to Egypt. So there's mulahaya, there's the kofta, there's chicken, there's like the baba ganoush, there's like eggplant dip, there's the sesame paste, the bread's amazing. I mentioned kushari early on in the presentation, which is like all of the pastas and tomato sauce and like all the things in one bowl combined. So like if you're hungry, come to Egypt. There's so much to taste and try, and there's so many different cafes to go to. Just like have some tea while you're like taking in the culture and the sights and the
This is
history.
kosher, right?
Yeah, that's the kushari. It's like everything in one bowl. I think there's like some onions you throw in there, some like garlic. So
I
it's
had never heard of it. When I think of
yeah,
Egypt, of course, there's all the Middle Eastern food in general, like all the
yes,
food from Levant, right, that you find in Lebanon and in other parts of the Levant, right? But there are some typically Egyptian dishes that you only find in Egypt, right? Like the full madames, right? The
yes,
beans too, right? That's
mhm,
typically Egyptian. Also, the super
yes,
sweet tea, and that
yes,
coffee that's like really thick, a bit like Turkish
yes,
coffee, right?
yes. And the soups are amazing. The lentil soup and the orzo soup, and oh, there's so many good things. So many good things. Right now I'm hungry.
I feel like food is very important in every place that I visit, right?
It
So
is.
I feel like in Egypt is probably one of the things that people talk about the least, right? They don't talk about the food so much.
And
And
we,
yes,
we
the history.
we heard that we started doing food tours, like food walking tours, because we're like, people need to come here and eat, and when they eat they want to stay. Like this is part of why I think I moved here, because I'm like, I could eat this food every day. It's so amazing, so many different flavors. It's just like it's home cooked, it just tastes amazing. So yes, the food is to die for. If people have questions about that, we can send you some recipes or something in the comments. So for a week, typically we have day one is our arrival. Like relax, like get settled. You've like made it through the Cairo chaos. Enjoy your hotel. There's so many great places to stay here. Then the next day, I would at least have one full day for the pyramids and museum, or the pyramids in Old Cairo. If you can squeeze in an extra day, maybe we're like extending to a full week. Then I would pick one day trip, so maybe to Alexandria or Saqqara, Memphis, Dashur. If you have a little longer than a week, maybe you do a desert trip, or some Sokna if you want. Then we're going to get into like the nitty gritty heart of the tours, which is going to Aswan. So you could do that overnight sleeper train from Cairo to Aswan, or fly. We can do an early morning flight, so you can maximize your day upon arrival in Aswan. And you at least want a full day in Aswan to do Fila Temple and the Nubian village. Then that following day, I do recommend, if your schedule allows, I would try to get in Abu Simbel. So you're going to need that private car to be able to drive out there. I want to say it's about 3 hours driving. And the next day, you're going to go to Luxor. So Luxor, you have that East and West Bank. We've covered that in all the attractions we went through. And so you can either do those all in one full day that's like packed day, or you can do 2 days in Luxor. So 2 days in Luxor is usually pretty common. One to do the East Bank, one to do the West Bank. And then after that, if your schedule can fit it, I would try to do 1 or 2 days in Hurghada on the Red Sea. So that pretty much sums up at least a week in Egypt. Some people come for 2, or we welcome you for as long as you want to come, but at least a week is like the ideal time to really enjoy everything that Egypt has to offer.
Right. So one day in Cairo, one day for a day trip from Cairo, one
Yeah.
day in Aswan, one day Valley of Kings, Abu Simbel, and
Yes.
2 days in Luxor, ideally.
Yeah, 2 days in Luxor. Yeah, Valley of the Kings would be your start in Luxor. Could be one of your starts in Luxor. And then you could do 1 full day in Hurghada if you want. Some people like to extend once they're in Hurghada. If they are going to be scuba diving, they might be concerned about flying right after diving. So
Right.
some people are like, we want to extend a little bit. So it's good to know, again, like all of the things that there are to see and do when you arrive, so you can plan accordingly. So
right?
Yeah, I hope this happens.
And then I guess from Hurghada you can fly on to another destination as well without having to go to Cairo, right? You could possibly go back to
and
Israel or...
Some people do fly directly out or onto another destination. Well, as I mentioned at the start, we have welcomed thousands of travelers, and we really do everything from budget travel all the way to like high-end luxury. But if you're coming as a solo traveler or coming with a friend or family or as a group, even through your business, we can really help with all of the planning from start to finish. Everything we do right now is all private tours. So we really work with our clients on, what do you want to see and do and experience while here? And then we really work to give people that cultural experience so they can get the full Egypt experience while they're in country. And then, you can follow us on social media, on Facebook or Instagram at Antoine's Egypt Tours. Check out our website, drop us a note. We are currently still taking bookings for the end of the year. We have some girls group trips scheduled actually, and then through 2021. So we'd love to go deeper and talk with you more. Thank you so much for inviting me here today, having us come on behalf of Antoine's Egypt Tours.
Have you checked out our website? It's the go-to resource for everything solo female travel. If you identify as a woman, join our safe and private community on Facebook, Solo Female Travelers. We publish new YouTube episodes every week, so don't forget to subscribe so you're the first to know. Solo travel, but never alone.
Where were we going to India? Where are we going today? What was today's episode? Was that good?